Today on Foundation Lady, I will be reviewing the brand new Luxury Cream Foundation by Wayne Goss. I will be using the shade 10, which turned out to be a little bit light for me, but we're going to make it work. So here we have shade 10. On top we have a freshly applied swatch, and then on the bottom we have our dried swatch. And for those who are interested, the dry time came down to just a little bit over 2 minutes before it was dry to the touch. So very first thing here, I want to try to show you the texture on camera. It's very moisturizing, but it's not quite as oily or moisturizing feeling as the L'Oreal balm that I just tried a few weeks ago. So just to give you a little bit of perspective about how it feels. I do want to mention to you that this is a first impression. I literally set the alarm on my phone so I could purchase this the moment it hit Beautylish. And then I met the FedEx guy at the door a week later and ran up to my beauty room to record this. So an absolute first impression. So let's cover the basics. This is a cream foundation that contains almost 30% pigment, so it's very pigmented. It has a natural satin finish, which you can adjust by what you use underneath, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's 1 ounce or 30 grams for $38 US. And you can purchase this on beautylish.com, which I will link below. He suggests that you apply this with his Poreless Beauty Puff, which is $10 US, and that you set it with his weightless powder, which costs $28 US. Now, I didn't purchase those two things, but I tried to imitate them the best I could at home. Also, as often as I can, I try to apply a foundation with 3 different methods. That way, you guys can get an idea at home of what method you'd prefer. This line currently contains 12 shades. Now, Wayne Goss talks about the fact that this is a completely self-funded project. So his hope is that if this sells well, which it appears to be doing very well right now, that he will be able to add more shades to the line. So I mentioned earlier that he said you can affect the finish of this by what you put underneath. So if you use a really emollient moisturizer underneath, you'll get a dewy finish. If you use a really matte moisturizer or primer underneath, you'll get a more matte finish. And he said if you don't use either, then you'll get just a satin finish. I have normal to dry skin, so I just did my normal light moisturizing routine underneath and added just the tiniest bit of the NYX Hydrating Primer before applying this. As you can see here, I've tried 3 application methods. I think my favorite way of applying this is actually with the brush. I'm kind of stippling it on and then smoothing it out. And then after that, I went in with a beauty blender and just really pressed it into the skin, which gave a really nice skin-like finish. I'm going to link Wayne's video below where he talks about his favorite method of application for this. Although I didn't do it the same way, I was still really pleased with the outcome and the finish of this. Wayne talks about how this really melts into the skin, and I have to say, I agree with that completely. In fact, when I was doing the swatches, it was almost hard to get a picture of them because they blended so well into my skin that I wasn't sure how visible they would be in the pictures. After years of experience, you can tell that Wayne put a lot of thought into this foundation. He didn't include any skincare ingredients on purpose because he felt like foundation should just be foundation. He also tested this on many different ages, which I also really appreciate. And while no foundation out there will ever be everybody's cup of tea, I do think that he did a really nice job making a foundation that will work well for a wide variety of skin types and ages. So here are some close-ups without any other makeup on top of it. As you can see, it does really sink into the skin and look very natural. Now, I mentioned before that I didn't use his weightless powder, but I used the finest milled powder that I have, which is the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Powder, which I felt like did a really nice job. I'm trying to get in close here so you can see. So I liked using that on top, and then I found that my other makeup went so smoothly on top of this foundation. So while I'm showing you how this sits on the skin, let me go ahead and give you some comparison swatches. So on top we have the Wayne Goss Luxury Cream Foundation in the shade 10. Then we have the L'Oreal Age Perfect Tinted Balm in 10 Light. Then next we have the Milani Cream to Powder Foundation in 208. And finally, my closest shade to my natural skin tone, which is the Misha M BB Cream in shade 21. And then here are all of those exact same swatches in Sunlight. As far as the transfer test goes, after letting the foundation sit for a couple minutes and dry on my skin, I tested it and it was absolutely perfect, no transfer whatsoever. And our water sweat test turned out great as well, absolutely no movement. And finally, we have our foundation in different types of light. I was very impressed by how natural this looked in every type of light. I'm really curious if you're planning to try this, if any of you have already tried this. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, so make sure to leave those in the comments below. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you soon.